When we read the creation story in the Bible, it says, "And so God created humankind in his image. In the image of God he created them. Male and female he created them. God blessed them, and God said to them, 'Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves upon the earth.' God said, 'See, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is upon the face of the earth, and every tree with seed in its fruit, and you shall have them for food. And so every beast of the earth, to every bird of the air, and to everything that creeps upon the earth, everything that has the breath of life, I have given every green plant for food." The creation story sung so beautifully by Sandy reminds us of two things throughout its story. God created, and God saw that his creation was good. When we think of the creation which is good and what is happening to that creation today, I know sometimes I want to weep. Thinking of the pictures of the rainforest burning due to man's greed, hearing about elephants, giraffes, and other animals nearing extinction, realizing that we have already lost a lot of animals and birds and fish due to extinction, makes me angry at the folly of mankind. It also makes me wonder and ask God, does he regret what he said to the first people? "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, the birds in the air, and every other living thing that moves upon the earth." This, taken from the Bible, tends to encourage people to think that they can do what they like with God's creation because he gave them permission. But I think the way this story is depicted in the song sung by Sandy, in the sung version we have slightly different take on the line. The verse as sung is, "Let us make in our image humankind to bear fruit and become without end, and let them fill the earth with life." Does that not sound much more hopeful than dominate and subdue? And you wonder why the first writers of the Bible would use those words, dominate and subdue. And how indeed people came to think that this meant they were allowed to do what they wanted with the gifts which God created. And then I realized that these two words have been drastically taken out of context. We forget the first part of the story. We forget the first God made us in his own image. We forget that God wanted us to create, not destroy. God wanted us to love, not hate, or ignore, or abuse, or neglect. And is that not what we have done with the nature around us? When we think of subdue, of dominate, they are ugly words that call us to destroy. Destroy what is. Destroy the relationship between species. And yet, when you think about these words in their spiritual context, they do not mean destroy at all. These words mean not ownership and control, but stewardship and care. God expects us to be responsible stewards over the glory of his creation. He did not just give us the earth and walk away. He remains present and active within creation today. Have you ever hugged a tree? I was on retreat one year, and the animator of the retreat suggested that we go hug a tree. Fortunately, we were in an area where there were lots of trees. So feeling really stupid, I stopped to hug one. I stood silently for about 2 minutes saying to myself, "Please don't anybody come by. This feels really dumb. I feel like I'm crazy." Racing thoughts of being uncomfortable ran through my mind. But our leader said, "Hug the tree for 5 minutes." And standing there in the 3rd minute, my thoughts calmed down and I began to feel the tree. The way the wind blew the branches and leaves, hearing songbirds sing, feeling the rough bark and bumps of age on the tree, and what I began to feel was the lifeblood of the tree itself. It was so very startling to me to know that this large maple, which had been there for over 40 years or more, was still growing. It was shivering in the breeze. It was still there. My next thought was that this living thing was alive and growing, and feeling so connected to the tree, I began to feel connected to God in a new way. On my sabbatical to San Antonio, about 5 or so years after my tree hugging experience, my spiritual director there suggested I go for an intentional walk. And that's a walk where we paused just to note what was around us, where we were, how we were feeling, what we could see. On this walk, I came upon another maple. Felt a little happy to see it, that I was feeling a little homesick, and there's a Canadian maple. I looked at the tree where the branches had been hacked off. It was standing in the parking lot of the school, and wires for power were running through it. So, of course, it had to be trimmed every once in a while. And it felt like it was hacked in various spots where branches were cut off so the wires could have free movement. Have you ever seen a tree that's chopped this willy-nilly to keep it from overwhelming power lines? You see a lot of that in this neighborhood. And while looking at the tree in San Antonio, I noticed the knots in the tree. They were all different sizes where branches had been cut away, yet they were also all grown over with bark, weathered by rains and the sun, and they looked stronger, felt stronger, like the taking of the branch had not destroyed the tree, but the tree had instead grown up around the break. It had weathered the insult. It had grown a new branch in a new direction. Thinking about this tree started me thinking about my personal life. How have I weathered breaks and storms and insults in my life? Did they make me stronger? Allow me to grow in new ways? It gave me much room for thought and contemplation. This is what nature does for us if we but listen, if we but pay attention. The song verse says, "Let them fill the earth with life." And the gospel echoes that by saying, "All things came into being through him, and without him not one thing came into being. What has come into being in him was life, and the life was the light of all people. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it." What has come into being in him was life, and the life was the light of all people. Let us become more in tune with the light of creation. God saw that it was good. He asked us, his creation, to be light for others and to be good stewards and care for what he gave us. It is time to be that light for each other and the world, and it is time to be in right relationship with nature. We are all interconnected, and one of us cannot survive without the others. As we pray tonight for our earth, our home, our land, let us remember that God made it all. God made all of us too, and he saw everything he made and knew it was good. On your next walk, pay attention to what is around you. And if you have a few minutes, hug a tree.